This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. This episode is sponsored by EquityBee. Stock options can be valuable, but exercising them often means taking on real financial risk, putting tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket with uncertainty around the outcome makes exercising a difficult decision for many startup employees. And that's where EquityBee comes in. EquityBee helps you exercise your options without using your own capital. No out-of-pocket costs. They provide non-recourse funding to cover exercise costs and taxes. There's no repayment unless the company has an exit. With EquityBee, you don't leave your equity behind. Go to codestory.co/EquityBee to learn more. See terms and conditions in the sponsors section of the episode page. That's codestory.co/EquityBee.
My co-founder and we didn't think we could just kind of march into a hotel and say, hey, we're going to swap out this core platform that you're already on, or we're going to bring in this new platform that's going to do all these different things and so forth. We felt like we really need to earn our right, prove the things that we would bring to them would help solve their problems. And so we started on one very kind of specific workflow, which we thought could really help the hoteliers. And that is called digital authorizations. So that was really our MVP, is how we think about it. What that did was it literally digitized a piece of paper that's called a credit card authorization. My name is Harman Narula. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Canary Technologies.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve more. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took
you.
it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Laphart, and today how Harman Narula has built the all-in-one hotel tech platform that drives revenue, automates admin, and delights guests. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. Harman Narula lives in New York City with his wife and 2 young kids. He was born in the States from parents who immigrated to the country from India. The immigrant household, quote-unquote, was one that focused on hard work and ethics, and it was fueled by the lore of both his grandfather's entrepreneurial adventures. Harman's also a big Knicks fan and likes to take in a game when he can. Prior to New York City, he lived in San Francisco for 10 years or so and picked up bike riding. Though he hasn't picked it back up just yet in New York, he hopes to eventually. Harman spent a lot of his early career in hospitality. His now co-founder worked in this space as well, but primarily on the technology side. So all of the conversations he and his friend were having referenced this ecosystem. Eventually, they landed on a thesis that the hotel tech stack, or operating system, should be customer-facing. This is the creation story of Canary Technologies.
We are a vertical software business focused on hotels. We are the category leader in what you think of as the guest management system space, which is basically like the interaction layer between a hotel and a guest. So think solutions like a mobile check-in, a mobile checkout, guest messaging. So like when you're messaging with the hotel, once you're on property, maybe you're purchasing things like F&B and so forth. Digital tipping is really big in North America. So basically any digital touch point that the hotel has with the guest, that's the space that we're the leader in. We're also the leader now in kind of like vertical specific AI applications for hotels. So things like AI voice, AI messaging, and a slew of others as well. So at the end of the day, we basically are helping hoteliers provide better guest experience while generating more revenue and running a much more streamlined operation. We work with more than 20,000 hotels in more than 100 different countries, including a lot of the large notable big brands here in North America, pretty much every one of them. And we've raised about $200 million of venture capital. It was really a bit serendipitous, frankly. So I have a deep background in hospitality, a little bit by chance. And so I always tell people that like my background is like the illustration of how the dots connect nicely backwards, frankly. So I went to undergrad up at Cornell. They have a hotel school there. So I was actually in the hotel school there. I did the finance thing for a little bit after school, but didn't really enjoy that. And I ended up at Starwood after that, prior to Starwood being acquired by Marriott. You might be familiar. Starwood was one of the largest hotel companies in the world. They own brands like Westin, Sheraton, W, St. Regis, and a bunch of others. And I did a host of different strategy work there prior to an MBA, then some management consulting at Bain, where I basically focused on hospitality technology as well. And so I had spent a decent amount of, obviously, my schooling and then a bunch of my early career in hospitality. And I started the business with a good friend of mine, and he was a serial entrepreneur. Prior to Canary, he was working at a hotel technology company more focused in a different problem space. But that's where he started to also learn and get deep into hospitality and learn about the different systems. And that wasn't necessarily working out. All the conversations him and I were having now were about hospitality and what was happening in that ecosystem and so forth. And that's where that kind of metastasized into our thesis around the hotel tech stack and how we thought that was going to evolve and be much more guest facing. And so that's like the origin of how Canary first came about.
I'm really excited to dive into what you would consider the MVP for Canary, that first version of the customer-facing product that you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
We formed this thesis that the hotel tech stack was going to transform pretty significantly, and that it was going to be significantly more focused on the guest. And that we didn't see that there was necessarily a lot of the more sophisticated guest-facing type solutions that hotels needed or that other verticals had that hospitality didn't necessarily have. At the same time, I'd say both my co-founder and I, we think of ourselves as more like pragmatic type entrepreneurs. We didn't think we could just kind of march into a hotel and say, hey, we're going to swap out this core platform that you're already on, or we're going to bring in this new platform that's going to do all these different things and so forth. We felt like we really need to like earn our right to sell into hotels and prove the things that we would bring to them would help solve their problems and make their businesses better and make for a better guest experience. And so we started on one very kind of specific workflow, which we thought could really help the hoteliers. And that is called digital authorizations. What that workflow is, and so that was really our MVP, is how we think about it. What that did was it literally digitized a piece of paper that's called a credit card authorization. And so what a credit card authorization form is, and you might be familiar with this for either at a hotel or something else in your life, Basically, for everything that you'd consider mostly a non-standard type booking, everything outside of, let's say you go on an OTA, so something like booking.com or hotels.com or something like that, or maybe you're loyal and you go to brand.com, like weston.com or Bonvoy or something. Everything outside of that is non-traditional booking for a hotel. So let's say you're hosting an event and you go to a hotel, you say, hey, I need X number of room nights, I need some F&B, I need some banquet space, I need some audio visual, etc. They're going to give you a proposal. They're going to give you a contract for those things. And then they're going to likely send out something called a credit card authorization form. It was this kind of like PDF or piece of paper that you'll fill your credit card information on and you'll send it back to the hotel. They'll print it out. They'll hole punch it. They'll put it in a binder. That was the first workflow where we said, hey, this is something that's not great for the hotel. It's not great for the guest. We can provide a better experience for this. And so that's the first solution that we launched. And we're still one of the largest or the largest player in that space today for digital authorizations.
This episode is sponsored by Alcor. Global hiring for engineering teams can be a nightmare. Too many providers, hidden fees, slow support, and local rules that don't make sense. Alcor is a different kind of EOR partner. They're built for tech companies scaling across borders with deep expertise in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Alcor combines employer of record services with tech recruiting, helping you choose the right country, find and assess engineers, and onboard them in days, not months. Nearly 85% of what you pay goes straight to your engineers. Alcor's fee decreases as your team grows, and you can always bring the team in-house with zero exit fee. That's why Silicon Valley startups, including 5 unicorns, work with Alcor. Learn more at alcor.com/podcast or tap the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. So then you've got that first version that you decided, right? The first piece that you decided to go out and do better, and you're happy with it, you're getting the traction that you want. How did you progress and mature the product and, essentially the platform as you went forward? And I think to wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Canary.
Yeah, so we had this overarching thesis and kind of vision for where we believed the market was going to go and the tech stack was going to evolve to for hotels. With that said, though, at the end of the day, it's all about the customer, right? And for us, that's hotels. So we spend a lot of time with our hoteliers. We talk to our hoteliers on what are their needs, what are they thinking, what are they seeing, what problems are they facing. And that tends to be the biggest driver of our roadmap. With that said, that's overlaid over our vision of this is where we believe the market is moving, right? This is where we think the puck is going. We kind of want to skate towards that. And so those two factors, I'd say the customer comes first, and then overlaid with our vision is how we started to think about what next to build. And so we jumped quickly from digital authorizations, and we were scaling that pretty rapidly. We had raised some capital. There were some additional solutions that we built on top of that. And that's when we took our moment to say, hey, this thesis we have around guest-facing platforms, like the guest-facing solutions that hoteliers are going to need to run their properties, and the demands that are coming in from the new types of travelers that are coming to hotels, this is our chance to launch those pieces. And so that's when we took the leap on the guest management system and helped push that space forward and pioneer what that really looks like for hotels.
So here you're saying we. Tell me about how you built your team and what you'd look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you.
I'd say this evolves over time, right? When you're a two-person business, or it's just 5 folks, like the types of folks that you're looking to help to join that journey and join that point in time are different than, now we're nearly 400 people and growing rapidly. And those types of folks are a little bit different types of profiles. I'd say underlying though, if you were to ask me like what types of characteristics are important to you guys, I'd say there's probably like 3 things that we think about most. The first is probably curiosity. I think for me, this really shows someone like cares, right? And that's really important. I often talk about this at Canary with our team and when we're recruiting, we can teach folks a lot, right? We can teach folks about hospitality and our domain. And if you're earlier in your career, let's say you're a more junior PM and we have more senior PMs that might be good mentors for you and so forth. So we can teach you about that. The thing we can't really teach people is can't teach you to truly care. And I think curiosity is an indication that like someone truly cares. They care about their colleagues, their team members, they care about their customers, they care about their craft, they care about their work. And so that's probably one of the most important things. And then I think the other things that we also look a lot for is like this people that have this like pursuit of excellence. And that probably talks a lot to our mindset around like strong work ethic, people that are highly motivated, they're ambitious, and they want to like better themselves. And so I talk a lot about how Canary, for our team members here, I talk a lot about how they should view Canary as kind of their vessel for growth. They should view Canary as a way to better themselves day in and day out. Make the mistakes. We are happy to invest in that. Like we want you guys to getting better day in and day out, and people that really are pursuing that excellence. And then the last is just entrepreneurial DNA. So people that have a high agency, self-starters, that type of mentality tends to do really well here as well.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains. And this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Get a .tech domain. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo. at mezmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. Let's talk about scalability. It's going to be interesting to hear where this comes in. How did you approach scale from the beginning? And that could be technology, it could be people, it could be business approach, all those sorts of things. And have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
We believed pretty strongly that the market was going to go through a transformation when it came to the tech stack in hospitality. And so we knew the opportunity. We felt like the opportunity was there for us. And so we had this larger vision. But as I mentioned earlier, alluded to, we were pragmatic where we said we wanted to be very methodical in terms of how we built the business, right? So kind of solution, scale, expand, solution, scale, expand type of find product market fit over and over again on these different core pieces. And so when we thought about scaling, I think, we felt like it was core to our DNA. It was going to be really important for our DNA for vertical software business to be able to find product market fit and scale that, getting that in the hands of as many customers as quickly as possible. And that attaching to our longer vision, every function as we built it, we were opportunistic, but we also thought about what does the next level, what does the next phase of growth for this function look like? With that said, that doesn't mean we did not nail this every time. There's definitely plenty of times where you're just trying to put one foot in front of the other, and you might decide to use a solution, or you might decide to hire in a certain direction, and then say 6 months later, you've outgrown that already. And so there was definitely those types of challenges. But I'd say we tried to make sure where we're talking to founders that were one step ahead. As we were building out each function, we were trying to see around the corner to what the next most important part was going to be.
Now, Harman, as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far, what are you most proud of?
I would say the team. A business is its own kind of technical legal entity, but at the end of the day, it's an aggregation of people with a shared vision, goals, and values. And so I'd say we're really proud of the team that we built here. I think a lot of the folks within the industry as well that work with Canaryites are always thoroughly impressed in terms of just the caliber of individuals that we have at Canary. Folks, they work hard, they care about their craft. And so that's probably what I'm most proud of as we look back over everything that we've done here.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I'll tell you, we signed our first real office lease the week that pandemic was starting. Now, hindsight's 2020, but back then it was kind of like, oh, we're going to need a space. No, but I joke. I'd say probably the mistake or the thing that we would change is we didn't invest in some of the company infrastructure as early as we should have. And what I mean by that is we were probably late to truly build out our finance function as we should have. I think we've been late to building out our recruiting function. And as a result, we had to rely on third parties and so forth. The investment, and we've caught up or catching up on some of this still, but I think investing in company building is really important. We went through YC really early. That was the incubator that we went through. And they talk a lot about initially as founders, you are building product and you're basically just trying to do everything you can to find product market fit and get that to work and get that in the hands of users. And then at some point you kind of start shifting a little bit to building the company and investing in the infrastructure for the company. And I'd say that's probably a mistake where we could have been doing that, investing in that earlier than we did.
Let's move forward then. What does the future look like for Canary, for the product, for the team, for all that you have in store?
There's a few different lenses to look at this. One is, so we're the category leader in the space called the guest management system, or the digital guest journey space, where it's every digital touch point that the hotel has with the guest. And so the canvas for the digital guest journey, if you think about that, pretty large, right? All the touch points that a hotel might have with a guest. And so I think you'll see us continue to meet the needs of hoteliers at each of those different touch points. And so that's kind of one piece of, or one lens to think about our roadmap and how we're thinking about moving forward. The other piece here is, as many folks in the market, we do believe strongly that vertical players will be the drivers of vertical specific AI platforms and native AI powered solutions. And so we're investing very heavily into being that player for hospitality. And we've done a lot of work with our large enterprise players in that space as well. And some of these we've announced and some are coming. And so that's the other place that I'd say we're investing very heavily, whether that's kind of our AI voice platform, our omni-channel communication platform, and some of the other native AI solutions that we're also launching right now.
So let's switch to you, Harman. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I'm close with my family. I'd say like my parents probably influenced me the most in terms of how I work. There was a pretty strong emphasis around work ethic and academics in my household. As I mentioned to you earlier, like I grew up on those stories about the challenges that they faced. Father working overnight so that he could study during the day, mother working in quick service restaurants. And so when they first came to the country. And so I think that probably influences me a lot in terms of just like how I think about what it means to just fundamentally work and having that work ethic. That's probably the biggest influence that comes to mind for me.
Last question, Harman. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
I would say two things. One is like, as a Nike's out there, just do it. Like, you have to apply the doer mindset. As an entrepreneur, I often tell people like, had we obviously had done a bunch of research and learned about the market and tried to look at players, but had we done like even more thorough, like we probably never would have gotten started. It's so easy to find lots of reasons to not do something and risks associated with that. And I would say like really strongly have a doer mindset. You will learn tremendously more by doing. It's really easy, especially for smart, motivated, ambitious people, to just get caught up in the paralysis by analysis, right? It's okay to fail. You can only fail if you actually do. And that'll teach you something for maybe your next thing that you're going to work on. And so that's probably a big thing I'd say. And then I think the other piece, coming back to when you asked about who are the types of people that we think it's great to bring on and work with, I'd say curiosity. So follow the bouncing ball. Like genuine curiosity will take you very far. You're trying to get to the root and get primary learnings yourself, I think is probably the other thing I'd say.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Harman, thank you for being on the show today. And thank you for telling the creation story of Canary.
Thanks for having me, Noah.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Working across teams is tough, but Asana helps you handle it. Asana AI can spot roadblocks and assign work to keep everything on track. That's how work gets handled. Visit us at asana.com.
In a world full of noise, long-term thinking stands out. On the Capital Ideas podcast, Capital Group leaders explore the decisions that matter most in investing, leadership, and life. It's a rare look inside a firm that's been helping people pursue their financial goals for more than 90 years. Listen to the Capital Ideas podcast from Capital Group, published by Capital Client Group, Inc.